Okay, today's video we're going to talk about tracking templates on Google Ads and how you can actually make money from them. As opposed to all the other videos you're going to see on YouTube about tracking templates and custom parameters which are tied to tracking templates, you actually will learn how to make money. This isn't going to just be a video about, oh, click here, this is how you set this up, you can do this way or this way, but I can't tell you how to, practically use them for your campaign. This is going to tell you how to use them with your Google Ads account to make money and with PPC strategy involved in the process. I'm going to tell you how to set them up to make money for your campaign, regardless of what you're doing, e-commerce or non-e-commerce, which a lot of you guys that are doing e-commerce, you probably don't even know that you can use these to make money, but I'm also going to give you 7 different examples of how you can specifically use them to make money. Specifically how to make money and basically how much money they're making with the different use cases that I've actually used these with, i.e. different clients we've used them with and made decent money, and I'll share those experiences of how much we made, what we made, or how we made the money with these different things with you here on today's video. So with all that said, I will get right into the content. So the first things first here, a tracking template in Google Ads, just to cut out all the bullshit, is merely a way to label incoming traffic from your Google Ads account so that you could simply see what money you're making from different traffic sources that you may have, which might mean looking at Google Display versus Google Search Ads, comparing the two to see which, or you have different types of ads that you could determine one ad versus another ad if you wanted to. What makes more money? Specifically, if you had half your ads with one type of particular style or offer on it, one half of all your ads have another type of style on it, and you wanted to see of the leads that came in, how much you made from one type of lead with one type of style of ad versus your other category of ad, what those leads are worth, or even what those customers are worth after their initial purchase with you. What do they go on to do after that? Or you could, of course, use the tracking templates for tracking of different audiences. So that could simply be identifying if somebody who has been on your competitor's site before, what they're worth to you as a lead or as a customer versus if they were somebody who hasn't been on one of your direct competitor sites before. Same thing could obviously apply if you wanted to see if somebody was a homeowner versus a non-homeowner, what the homeowner leads are worth to your business versus non-homeowners, or what the customer is worth to you if they're a homeowner or not homeowner. So these are just some different basic ways that you use custom parameters and tracking templates to make money with Google Ads and what they're actually used for or how they're used. So, of course, this video isn't going to go through how to set custom parameters and tracking templates up. This is going to tell you how to make money from them. And you go to somebody on Fiverr and they can set these things up for you in 2 seconds. The important thing is that you know how to make money with them and what's the practical purposes of this. Because if you go to somebody who is getting paid to do your ads, they're not going to give you this type of information. Mostly, anyway. Or they're not going to give you the ideas on how to make money with it, which what I try to cover on this channel. Now, you may be saying, but Corey, I can see these things in my Google Ads account already about what's working, what's not, because you have conversion tracking set up in your account. And the difference between the conversion tracking in your account and the tracking templates is, there's 2 basic things here. A, if you have a CRM where all the leads you have come in lie, or you have a customer database, if like you're doing e-commerce, where all your customer database information is, the tracking templates make sure the data about what works, what ads, whatever you're labeling, whether it's competitor audience versus non-competitor audience, whatever you're doing, that exists in your CRM or your customer database, so it stays with it, so that just by looking at your customer database or CRM, you could tell that competitor, the customer that came from a competitor audience versus a non-competitor audience, which ones are which, basically, in terms of evaluating the lead quality from one to the other or customer quality from one to the other. So you don't have to look at your Google Ads account to be able to see that data, even though you technically could. But the bigger thing here is Google Ads, if somebody doesn't turn into a lead doesn't turn into a customer within 90 days, or just in general past 90 days, you're not going to be able to track that lead or that customer past 90 days. So if you've got a lead that normally doesn't turn into a customer for 60 days, but a lot of them it takes more than 90 days, passing information, even if you use offline conversion tracking, which you can watch my video about offline conversion tracking if you're interested in that, where you take your lead information and when you make a sale, you pass that information back to Google Ads. So inside your Google Ads account, you can see where that sale came from on the campaign level, the keyword level, the ad level, time of the day level, day of the week level, and so forth. If that lead did not turn into a sale within 90 days, even though you try to pass that information back to Google Ads, you're not going to be able to see it because it only lets you track up to 90 days. Same thing with the customer side. If you want to track not just how much you're making from a customer that you're getting from your ads, but what does that person do for the lifetime that they're with your company? Like if you sell stuff that where you have repeat customers, you could, if they buy from you more than once within that first 90 days of the time that they click on your ads, you could pass multiple purchases into Google Ads and update. You can even send a conversion data to Google about a sale that happened on your site. And then later on, if that same person buys again, you can pass that same information again to update what that customer value is worth, as long as it's been within 90 days. But if it's been past 90 days, whatever additional value that customer has to you, you can't pipe that back into Google Ads anymore. So for a lot of you guys in e-commerce, where you have a lot of repeat customers, you're not going to be able to justify the cost of Google Ads to your company if all you're looking at is what they did on the first purchase or what they did in the first 90 days. Given in an industry like fitness supplements, the whole value of the customer is getting them to buy from you so that they'll buy for the next 5 years for every purchase that they need from then on. Once they have a provider, they kind of don't switch because you have to fill in all your credit card details and everything again with that provider again, or shipping address and stuff with that provider again when you switch providers. And you already know, when you could trust somebody and they delivered on time and everything, why risk switching if you don't have a reason to switch? So you'll have to look at the lifetime value of a customer to justify what it costs you to get them in as a new customer, to make sense of the ad, what it costs to get that customer. And when you can compare, since most people only look at what people buy the first purchase, even though they know that they should be looking at total purchases or lifetime value of a customer to justify the cost of what they're willing to pay to get that customer, when you're willing to look at the lifetime value of a customer and run your campaigns at a loss for the first 6 months until the rest of the purchases come in, you'll be in position to get a majority of the traffic, whereas your competition who wanted to pay off right away won't be able to afford Google Ads, and you'll be making millions of dollars long-term from the Google Ads because you're a little bit more patient than them, and you have the data awareness on top of it of what a customer is worth, not just from Google Ads overall, but the customers, tying everything back to what I'm talking about today, the customers that are worth the most, are they coming from this keyword or that keyword? Are they male versus female? You can see all that because you got the information about all that, all those individual sub-metrics in with the lead or the purchase that the customer is making, and stored in your customer database, in your lead database forever essentially, so you can see everything that customer's done and then what brought them in, what audience, what ad, and whatever, so that you could do long-term analysis on the ROI of your ads and certain parts of your ads, what the ROI is of one part of your account versus another long-term. So post 90 days, you can't do tracking in Google Ads, even if you're piping in information about your leads, whether they close or not to your account, or do they purchase more than once within the first 90 days? Past 90 days, which in most markets, you want information more than 90 days because a lead, many leads come back years from now to buy, or a year or two from now just to buy, because people don't. In fact, the average amount of time that people have, that it takes for people when they initially start researching a product or service and they buy is getting longer all the time, which is called the sales cycle window. So for most markets, unless you're selling a $20 broom that you're just never going to buy a broom again, because once you have a broom, you never buy another one, you want to use these custom tracking templates to pass information about where they came from, so that you have, a couple years from now, a wealth of information that told you where all the best customers came from, so you could just narrow down, take budget from the part of the account that's producing kind of the crappiest valued customers or crappiest quality leads, and reallocate it to the part that's producing above average results to walk up the amount of profit you can get from Google Ads long term. So anyway, with all that said, here's an example of how I use these tracking templates to be able to make money. Now, before I do this, note that you could use something called value track parameters. Now, value track parameters, what that'll allow you to do, and using the final URL suffix through Google Ads in the ads menu in the advanced settings on the ads editing menu, you can put value track parameters, which will take the information about the keyword, the campaign name, the ad group, or sorry, not the ad group name. But those are the two main ones that you would want to pick up with this or using this. But some base information about the customer, the keyword, campaign name, and so forth, that Google allows you to put these value track parameters at the end of the URL of the ad automatically using the final URL suffix box. And you don't have to set anything sophisticated up in terms of tracking templates to get that base level of information that most people want in with the lead as it comes through, or in with the customer as it comes through your e-commerce site. So if you just want the basic information about the user stored in your CRM or in your customer database on your e-commerce site, you could use value track parameters and not have to work very hard to set all this up. Tracking templates are different in that if you want to track something that's different than the default value track parameters that only track a few things, like basically 10 different options of things that you can track in terms of what that user's like, so that that information is stored in your customer database or in your CRM. Tracking templates and then custom parameters that are tied to that can track an infinite amount of things. You can literally track anything you want, which is the reason why I made this video, to show you how you can actually make money with it. Because just knowing you can track different things and no practical background as to how to apply the capability to your PPC strategy, it's pretty much, it's basically worthless. So I will give you 7 different instances where we use tracking templates to physically make money. And then with that should spring enough of an idea for you to be able to make money with your ads using these tracking templates as well, and the setup of the tracking templates on your Google Ads. So with that said, the first example I want to go over here is an example where, to mention here, where you can use new tighter search campaigns that you set up that should have a much higher cost per conversion than the campaigns that you had before, to justify the higher cost per lead that those new campaigns will generate. So all the time at our PPC firm, we'll all come in and all set up a really good Google search campaign set for the client, whereas typical person sets up their Google Ads campaigns to just do a few keywords, and all the keywords will be targeted with one ad and one landing page. The one landing page is less relevant, that they have one ad and only a few keywords versus the hundreds of keywords that they ways that people can search for their product or service, or in this case service, and they will target the keywords to make up for the fact they only have 10 or 20 keywords and there's like 1,000 ways that someone searches for their services, they'll target the keywords in broad match a lot of times, and what they'll get is a lot of people like typing in their competitor's name and then accidentally clicking on their ad, thinking their ad is, their competitor, and then calling and then, basically wasting their budget and their salespeople's time, obviously having to field that call. And so the cost per lead on their old campaigns looks really, really low, considering a higher proportion of their leads, or a high proportion of their leads, are bad quality leads, because the targeting on their campaigns is very loose. And it was loose because they didn't spend very much time going ahead and targeting 500 keywords, all an exact match with the brackets around it versus nothing around the keyword, so that the universe of what's possible to have their ad trigger is limited to the exact things that they would really want their ad to show up for, not what they want to show up for plus a ton of other things. And so in an effort to save time, they certainly save time setting their campaign up, but they're paying 3 times, 2/3 of everything they're paying for is waste. So we'll come in, set up a campaign properly, have the 500 keywords, we'll target them all in exact match, having custom ads for every keyword. The lead cost is double what they had, but the lead quality was 3 times as good. So we're now getting an extra 30-40% more profit from our leads right away, because the lead quality is so much better. And even though we're paying a little bit more per lead, lead quality is much, much better, and it offsets the higher cost per lead our campaign has, because we're not showing up for competitor search terms, which competitor search terms and competitor keywords, the cost per lead is less on those, because none of our competition in our market wants to target the competitor keywords, because they know, or enough of them know, that if you show up under your competitor's keywords, people will accidentally click those ads asking about their order status from you, and they'll end up wasting your budget. And so the competition for those competitor keywords is less, dropping the cost per click on those keywords. And on top of it, their campaign, they could be set up to have target maximize conversion bidding, so that their algorithm is trying to optimize for cheaper cost per conversion, and the cheapest cost per conversions will come from competitor keywords, because competitor keywords have the lowest CPC and the highest conversion rates, because somebody checking on their order status will also convert at a higher rate. So a good quality, long story short, a good quality campaign will have a higher cost per conversion than a crappy campaign, but will be more profitable because the lead quality is so much better that it offsets it. And so this is very, very common in home service businesses, but also in professional service businesses as well. So we'll set up tracking templates to prove to the customer, of the leads that are now starting to come in, you can compare our leads to your leads and see that you're getting a higher closing rate on our leads than the leads that you had from your old campaigns before. And you could use value track parameters to, in the CRM where we're sending the leads, or where they're collecting their, storing their leads, to keep tab of all the leads that they got. Using value track parameters, you could have the campaign name in with the lead as it comes in. But if you have lots of different campaigns, in with the lead it's gonna say some random campaign name, and you have to go look up is this campaign name Corey's campaigns that he set up for us, or is it one of our old campaigns? And then they got to think harder than they need to think. Whereas with the tracking templates, you could have a tracking template and it's just binary at that point. You could put Corey's campaign, our campaign. So every single lead that comes in, it either says, if it's coming from our Google ads, that is, it'll say along with it, Corey's campaigns, our campaigns. So that eventually all they got to do is go back the last 90 days and see how many sales came in from our campaigns, how many came from Corey's campaigns, by seeing if the label says, Corey's campaigns are our campaigns, and comparing that to the amount of ad spend that we spent on Corey's campaigns overall versus our campaigns overall, which You could easily differentiate the ad spend from, Corey's campaigns in this case versus our campaigns in this case by putting a label on Corey's campaigns that says like guaranteed PPC is the way we would do it. And then you can run a filter, and this is particularly useful if you have dozens of campaigns or even hundreds of campaigns. You can run a filter so that you can filter all campaigns by a certain label in Google Ads, so you could quickly see what you spent on all campaigns with a certain label, i.e. our campaigns, after you've filtered everything by that label. And then it just says, okay, last 90 days, all campaigns with the Corey label spent this. Then you could say, do another filter after that saying, filter all campaigns if it doesn't have the Corey label on it, and then you'll get the ad spend of all other campaigns the client has for the last 90 days, if you get my point. So now you have a very easy, quick way to identify new campaigns that are built better, that should have a higher cost per lead, versus old campaigns that have a low cost per lead but lower lead quality, and compare the ROI difference between the two. So whereas you could use value track parameters to track and do kind of the same thing, tracking templates can make it easier and more efficient for you to do so. And just say our campaigns versus their campaigns. I want every lead to specify one or the other what one it is. And that's one of the things you can do with tracking templates, okay? That's the first example of how to make money with tracking templates itself. And what, putting into perspective how much money you can make just setting up search campaigns the right way. In a lot of cases, the ROI difference, though, just to put it in a further perspective, doing the campaign setup the right way versus the wrong way, you're going to make 2, 3, 4, 5 times as much money, depending on how poor the campaigns you've set up already. But if you follow my past videos on how to set up a perfect search campaign, having a unique keyword for every ad and a unique landing page for every keyword, boy, it's going to fucking amaze you on how much of a difference that is actually going to make to your business. It takes time to set up, but once it's set up, you're making money from then on for years. You're making millions long term from this. Why wouldn't you want to invest in that, given it only takes hiring an assistant to do this for you for 10, 20, 30 hours, maybe even 100 hours. Still nothing compared to what you're going to be making from it. So anyway, that's the first example of how to use tracking templates to make money. Second example, tracking lifetime value of different types of traffic, specifically e-commerce. So this is where most people think of tracking templates and custom parameters as useful to track leads coming in. No. You can track customers that you get. So if you have an e-commerce site, like we had specifically for a fitness supplement brand that sells muscle building supplements and stuff like that, dieting supplements and stuff like that, stuff like you would normally see and get like at a GNC, okay? With that, we added tracking templates to the ads so we can identify certain audiences, whether somebody's been on a direct competitor site, and other things as to when we get a customer, how much the customer's worth. Specifically, if somebody's been on muscle building forums, what are they worth? Specifically on the display campaign. This is the really valuable part. We knew if they're on specific forums or certain websites that tell the user on how to improve and become in shape essentially. Same thing with the YouTube video ads and the same thing in the same line as that. We can tag whether or not if the ad that they clicked on was on this website versus this website over here, and bring that information into the customer database and identify what a customer's worth if the ad they found us on was on this site versus this site over here, and categorize it as well, given there might be certainly hundreds of websites, and so you don't want to necessarily tag every single individual website that you're going to have your ads running on, because there's going to be hundreds, and there was hundreds in that space, but we could categorize it. All forums. What's the value of a customer to us long term for somebody who was seen an ad on a forum and got to our site, purchased, versus somebody who was on a blog? What's the value of somebody who found our ad on a blog, clicked through, and then bought? The lifetime value of blog traffic by itself as a category. So that's the type of shit you can do for an e-commerce site even. And particularly useful as you're doing display advertising and trying to get traffic from display ads to purchase from your site, and identifying the types of display traffic that works, but not falling into the trap of seeing what the initial customer is worth, what's the lifetime value of a customer once you get that customer, and using that to justify the cost of getting that customer or not. Given, like I said, it's very rare you're going to get a customer in a repeat business type of business where there's a lot of repeat customers to pay for itself just on the initial purchase. If it was that easy, other people would already be doing it in your space, and it was that way 10 years ago, but not anymore. Sometimes still you can do that to this day, but generally in most competitive niches now you can't. So anyway, that's one way that you can make money. With us being able to do that in that particular market, where we got to identify the types of sites, types of videos, comparing self-help video versus blogs versus forums, the type of traffic on the type of sites that we want to attract new cold visitors from, given search ads can only scale so far, we were able to make way more than double than what we were making before, scaling up display ads for our business and identifying the types of customers within the display ads that we can run through Google Display Network and the video ads on YouTube ads for our business. Having that information that tells us what paid off. And so once you have this kind of tracking set up, you could just test this and test that and identify of all the things that you tested, here's the one thing that worked. And then once you find that, that pays for all the testing that you had to do beforehand. So anyway, that's an example of how you could employ this in a practical way that would make money for an e-commerce business, okay? Respectively, as it comes for non-e-commerce, by the way, you can do lifetime value of customers and use that also as a way to make money. So in this case, we did tracking of lifetime value of free offers to poach competitor clientele in the spa space. I've talked about this on this channel before. What we did, I got cleared to do this for the client in a local spa, New York, LA. We for a high-end spa that the women kind of basically go to, and some men obviously, where you go there and it's a day spa basically. And with that, you could wait for people that are ready to go to a spa, but most people that go to a spa already go to a spa. So there's a major opportunity poaching the people that go to the other competing high-end spas in the area, given there's only so many people who want to even go to a spa in the first place. So we put together a game plan for that, and we figured out what a customer is worth by looking at their books. What's the lifetime value of an average customer overall? All right. With that, we kind of identify what we could pay to get a customer if we knew we could get it from the competitor itself. From there, though, obviously a customer, any everyday average customer that comes in, obviously is going to be worth less than a customer we knew came from our competitor, given the competitors, a customer that's switching is more likely to be a loyal customer or a loyal person that has dealt with somebody in this space long term. Whereas somebody who's never been to a spa before, they might go once or twice on average. So, which is the other reason why you would want to do whatever you can to get and poach customers from your competitors when you're in a repeat business type of business, and customers have a long-term lifetime value to you. So versus just trying to go after people who are trying to dabble in doing it for the first time. So in this case, we just straight up said, if you show us the receipt of the other spa that you're going with, we'll give you the first time for free, totally for free. And with the tracking templates, we can identify the people who saw the ads or / offer that's offering that, and specifically coming from an audience, which you create a custom intent audience for somebody who's been to the competitor's site before. And of course, on top of that, tag the people. We also targeted people on Google search, so we're looking for those competitors there. But as a whole, we could add together all the leads that came in from Google search and Google display as a whole between all competitors, given that we set up separate campaigns for different competitors and so forth. We added it all together as a cumulative group, just basically free offer for competitor traffic. And then we analyzed when those people came in. Obviously, they turned into a lead and then they didn't buy through the site, but we could track that lead all the way to a sale and evaluate what the lifetime value of a customer that came in through a competing, that we knew was a customer of the competitor already, and compared that to the lifetime value of a customer that we didn't know where they came from, or if they came from a competitor at all. And then obviously we needed to track the value of the lead, because if we're going to give away our free, give away the free first visit for free, we want to know that was a smart move, that it's paying for itself. Ultimately, the value of a customer that came in from a competing audience, meaning they probably already do business with that competitor long term and is a loyal customer of theirs, was over 4.5 times more valuable than the average customer that came in off of our other stuff, which mainly it was just Google search ads where people were typing in local, day spas, New York City, or a variation of that, where they're just looking for a spa in the New York City. It was also in LA that this person had a location as well. So now you can see the kind of power behind this. Getting a customer or a client from your competitor can be worth so much more than your typical average customer you get that is coming into your business for the first time, to the point where you could offer what you have for free just to get them in the door. And I would say that would be the case for restaurants and a million other things. But you don't have to fear doing it and wonder if you're throwing your money out the window. You could set up a tracking template to track whether or not somebody came from a competing audience, and then value them over the lifetime of their lifetime value, having known if they came from a competing audience or not. So that's one additional example of how you can use tracking templates to make more money with PPC ads on Google. Number 4, the fourth example, tracking conversion rates of leads coming in from competitor display campaigns and brochure/buyer's guide. So we sold a luxury designer type mailboxes. And similar to what I was talking about before, for e-commerce businesses, you should target your competing audiences or your direct competitors' audiences in that with custom intent audiences. Again, you can actually have it so if somebody goes to one of your competitor sites, you can target them with display ads. And that's what we did here. And it was basically the most profitable thing that we could do is targeting the competitors' audiences, because they spent all that money to get those people aware of their product or service and into their site and get them warmed up to the market. And now we just got to come in at the last second a lot of times and say something slightly better, and we get that customer instead of them. So it costs us less to get the customer than they did, and they actually subsidize our marketing budget. So in that case, though, a lot of times, particularly if you're selling something that's expensive like this was, a few $100s mailbox, people are going to want to buy right away just by seeing a display ad. This is where a lot of people go wrong. They expect people to see a banner ad on the Google Display Network and be ready to buy, or even just talk to a salesperson right away. Because it takes a lot just to get them to have the courage to talk to a salesperson. But in the e-commerce space, people aren't going to see a banner ad and buy instantly. You can mostly get that out of your head, particularly for anything over $100. But what you can do is you can get that person a piece of information that if they're evaluating your competitor, you can offer them an industry buyer's guide that compares your product versus theirs, or your product versus 4 or 5 others in the category that you know they absolutely would want. So, and this is the type of level of offer you need to have in your banner ads, by the way, on Google Display Network to actually make money. Your half-ass offers aren't going to cut the mustard because people, they don't care about clicking through your ad when they're reading the New York Times. That's just how it is. You got to give them a compelling reason to say, wow, I can't not do this. So we tracked all the people then that were on our competitor sites recently that went to our site and downloaded our brochure/buyer's guide, which was basically both. And from there, obviously, we could track whether that person goes on to purchase or not, and what they purchased and how much they spend on their purchase. And with that, we found out that it was extremely profitable for us to do that. So naturally, and with this page, actually also getting other types of buyers to, in our funnel, in other words, we didn't just use the brochure to get people that went to a competitor's site to be interested in us. We did it for all types of traffic. So in this case, we could create a custom parameter to tag whether that person's been on the competitor site or not, to evaluate what the value is, going back similar to the day spa I was telling you about. What's the value of a competitor, somebody that's been on a competitor site recently and going after them versus somebody who hasn't, so that we can identify how much more we can spend to get somebody who's been on the competitor site recently to click through our ads, which gives us the capability to actually spend more, get a higher percentage of that traffic, because the higher we're willing to spend, the more auctions we're going to be able to win, which means the more times our ad is going to be able to be shown in that high profit audience. And conversely or inversely, the lower we spend or we're able to bid per click, or the lower that we're willing to tell Google we're willing to pay for a lead, if you will, the less of it we're going to get. And this is where the magic behind all this comes in, because we know one particular traffic's worth 3 or 4 times as much as another. We could double our bids and still come out ahead. And then a lot of times when you double your bids, you won't just get double the traffic, you'll get 3 or 4 times the amount of traffic. So, you end up making 4 times as much money from that one opportunity than you could otherwise, not just understanding what the value was from somebody who's been on the competitor site and downloaded that buyer's guide who wasn't on that competitor site. So anyway, in this particular case here, we understood that somebody who was on the competitor site already was over 2.5 times more likely to buy from us than if they were on that competitor site, which gave us the opportunity to pay a little bit more for a lead. But more importantly, our campaign was limited by budget. We were spending about $50 a day on traffic. And after we found that out, we went ahead and instead of spending about 20% of our ad budget overall in Google on that competitor display campaign that targeted people that went to the competitor site to drive them to that page that offered them the brochure, we spent about half of our overall budget on it because we knew it was a great tool, general awareness tool to get people that were most likely to buy in that market, and that we were piggybacking off of our competitor budgets that they paid to get warm up, and then we could come in at the last second and get them as a customer. That we wanted to start throwing a much higher proportion of our ad budget at it. So, and naturally when we did that, given our cost per lead didn't even have to go up that much, barely any, to be able to spend half of our budget on it, the ROI from our activities went up, skyrocketed after that. Our ad efficiency went up over double overall because we now understood that at least half of our ad budget should just go after people that have been on our competitor site already, instead of going after people on Google search that are looking for a designer mailbox. We just start going after people who've been on the competitor site instead and get them to download the brochure, given that brochure download is a more valuable, it's a more efficient way to turn somebody into a customer than it is to go after somebody looking for a designer mailbox outright. and trying to drive them to our site and get them to buy the mailbox itself. And in that case, or in any case, we also tried to get people that were looking for a designer mailbox to our buyer's guide page, and that also didn't make any sense. For some reason, which I kind of understand, naturally why, but when somebody's already been on your competitor's site already, and then you target them, you have a much, much higher quality prospect statistically at that point, because a lot of those people who've been on your competitor's site, they've gotten referrals to go, get to their site. Maybe they are driving a lot of cold traffic to their site and they don't have any referrals because they're a new company, or maybe they're just a shitty company. But mostly, what you're tapping into is all the referral traffic that they got. Their friend bought the mailbox. They thought it was cool. They're going to go buy one. That person's super, super likely to buy. They don't need much convincing. But we come in and give them a buyer's guide just to put that little bit of doubt in their mind right before they were going to buy. Obviously, that would be an efficient way to get them, or get a customer in that case. So that's why you want to, competing audiences are the most profitable traffic stream you can go get, that you can use to get customers overall through Google Search, Google Display Network advertising. It's the second most profitable thing, right after going after people who already been on your site or are typing your own brand name in. It's that powerful. So anyway, that's a fourth example of how to use the tracking templates to differentiate one type of visitor to your site, and doing so in a way that you have to generate leads for a product that normally you could go through the customer could go through a shopping cart to buy, but to see if the people that download the buyer's guide sometime within the next 3 years end up buying, and what percentage do. And obviously it's going to be cheaper to get someone to download a buyer's guide than to purchase through the shopping cart. So you can do it in a literal apples to apples comparison. What's the cost per sale for somebody who goes through the buyer's guide and eventually buys past 90 days, given that Google Ads can only track up to 90 days, versus somebody we send directly to the site and hope they purchase outright. So, but along with that, number 5 here, you could see the value of prospecting versus buying leads overall. So this is also kind of tied to what I just said, but to give you another example here, in the services space instead of the product space this time, we had a pool builder. If you're going to get a swimming pool installed in your house, there's only so many people searching for a pool builder locally in your city. And if you're selling in-ground pool construction services, if you want to really expand, you got to be able to convince people that weren't looking for a pool outright, or better yet, which you would do first, target people who are kind of thinking about it, that a certain percentage are going to go on to buy, maybe not a high percentage, and then getting in with them early so that you can build your brand awareness and brand loyalty with them early and trust early, so that when they get closer to buying, the other people that would normally go after them then when they're already sure they're going to buy, you've already locked yourself in. And with good quality content marketing, you can actually do that. You got to have good quality content, but if you have fantastic quality content in your space, better than anybody else's, and you front load get people early in the sales process, and you hit them with that, they're not going to want to go with anybody else. And by time they are sure they're going to buy, they're not going to consider anybody else. And you can actually prove that to yourself by using the Google tracking templates, because you could run an ad for, like what we did in this market. Should I get an in-ground pool? In-ground pools versus above-ground pools. Any searches like that on Google search, we could have ads running, and did have ads running, driving traffic to buyer's guides and other similar style content, which you had to opt in to get. So, with that said, we could evaluate, similar to like what we were talking about before, what is the value of a lead that downloads a buyer's guide who's like not even close to buying yet, but the cost of the traffic is much cheaper, because there's really no competition there in most markets where people are like looking for information only. the cost per click is like almost nothing compared to people looking for a contractor outright or to buy outright, or they're ready to buy already and using keywords that indicate that level of intent, buying intent already. You can evaluate, what does it equal out to? What's the math equal out to? Ultimately, by the way, in addition to the content that we had a buyer's guide where there was an actual opt-in, we can have using cookies, we can have the tracking template captured in a cookie, which basically you can look up basically what that means and how it's done itself. But if somebody reads the content and you want to see basically ultimately if that person came from that source later on when they come. So in other words, if they were looking for in-ground pools versus above-ground pools, and we ran an ad on Google search, drove them to an article. The article did not ask them for an email or anything up front to read that information. We knew the information's good so that it'll leave a lasting impression on the user. We don't need to gate the content, as they call it, gating the content with an email address to see the content. We drop a cookie on the user's browser that with the tracking template and specifically the custom parameter that says that they came from information marketing on Google search, and eventually 30 days or 60 days or whatever it takes for that user to come back and call or fill out any other form on the site, that information is stored on the user's browser through a cookie, so that eventually later on, if they come back to turn into a lead, we will get that information itself. So ultimately, there's a way, and specifically through forms, you can actually get your tracking template information and keep it with the user until they eventually turn into a lead. So if you're trying to run content for people that look like they might be a customer at some point, you can do that, and it doesn't matter how long it takes them to turn into an eventual form fill, because it'll be stored on the user's browser the whole time. So anyway, in that market, the cost per lead was a little bit more actually targeting people that, as a whole, that are looking for information that, about whether or not they should get an in-ground pool, what you need to know about getting an in-ground pool, then Google search ads where people are looking for swimming pool contractor services, that kind of thing. But the main thing is Google search, there's only so much of it. If you're really, really going to scale your company, in most markets, and when I say scale, I mean like 10, 20, 30x your company, you're going to need to get and master display advertising. Specifically, display advertising and search ads that target people looking for content or information before they're ready to buy. And figuring out a way to make it profitable. And the way that you know it's profitable is through the tracking templates. Or, there's other options, but tracking templates, you can just track everything that is information seeking people as a whole, and then just evaluate every, information seeking leads versus people that are looking to buy leads, if you will. So we were paying a little bit more for a lead. They were able to 5 to 10x their business. It's still going, so more like 10x now that they could get from Google ads, because they were able to run search ads and display ads, for mainly search ads, which a lot of people overlook that. In your market, and you're not a non-competitive, we'll just say basically every market, if you can come up with really killer content, and when people are looking for information about that content, run search ads, and it has to be keywords related to something that that they're looking to buy your product probably at some point. If you type in in-ground versus above-ground pools, what's better? That person, the likelihood that they're going to buy an in-ground pool probably, at least 2 to 5%, which is good enough already in that segment of audience that you're targeting. You should be able to make money given the cost per click to go after somebody like that, a lot of times in most markets, will only be like 30 cents, something like that, to get somebody who's going to eventually go on to buy a $30,000 pool or $50,000 pool. That's a steal. Maybe in not every market that's worth it. If you're selling, $20 brooms, that's not going to cut it. But if you're in something where you're selling something for 3 or for sure 4 or 5 or 6 figures, it certainly can be worth it. The content has to be good, and you have to be targeting people that there's probably at least 1% of those people that will go on to buy, so that you can get in with them early. And you can use the tracking templates to track every one of those leads and track them all the way until they eventually turn into a lead, so to say, by filling out the contact form on your site. Obviously, if they call and turn into a lead, you're not going to be able to pass that information to tag those people like that necessarily. But of the information you get by people who fill out the contact form and get the tracking template information with that, which, by the way that you capture it is by doing a hidden form field on your form, which pulls information out of the URL, because the tracking template that you have isn't going to be in the user's URL or stored on their browser using a cookie until they're ready to fill out one of the forms on your site, like I mentioned before. It's enough. It's enough data as a whole to compare what you're doing versus all the other traffic that's coming in through your campaign, so to say. So in other words, if only 30% of the people who are leads through your site fill out a form versus 70% who call, the 30% that do fill out the form, you can compare, the people in this case who are looking for information or started out looking for information and were attracted by looking for information and started out looking for a contractor in this case. You could compare, again, the ad spend spent to get the people to your site from information only versus the ad spend spent to get people looking for a contractor outright, and then with that compare the number of leads and sales you got from those leads using the tracking template to differentiate the two, and you can see what the ROI difference is. And in this case, you should be jumping up and down for joy when you find out that the customer that you got through the information content marketing is this, close to as profitable as somebody that's searching for your services outright on Google search. Because once you are able to go after people when they looking for information only, you should also be able to 5 or 10x the amount of money you're making from Google Ads, because there's way more people looking for information and then will never go on to search for like pool contractors Denver at all, because when they go to buy, they're just going to deal with the person that they read the content of initially. Or, by the way, here's the other thing, when somebody reads your content, and we know this because we've also ran some case studies on this as well, if somebody reads your content, they type in in-ground versus below ground pools, what's better, they read your content, if they eventually do go searching for in-ground pool contractors Denver 2 months from now, when they decide that they are going to do an in-ground pool, they're going to be at least 4 times as likely to click on your ad versus another ad, because the brand awareness is there. We know this because when we start doing content marketing, we know the other ads that we're running, are other keywords that target buying terms, the click-through rate goes way up, as well as the conversion rate. So you're going to get a higher percentage of people clicking through your ad because they have brand awareness of your company then, and they trust you more, so they're going to be more likely to convert when they get to your site, way more likely. So anyway, that's another way tracking templates and custom parameters can help you make more money. Number 6 here, getting close to the end now. Seeing value of leads by gender, age, income level. So another thing you can do with custom parameters and tracking templates is you could track, if you want to see what certain leads or customers are worth based upon if they're male or female, or young or old, or whether they're in the top 20% of income demographic or bottom 80%, you can do that with tracking templates. You just have to set up a tracking template at the campaign level, set the campaign to where you're targeting, let's say, the top 20% of income demographic, and then set all your other campaigns so it's basically tracking all income demographics, and then just compare the two. What's the value of the lead if they were from a campaign that was just targeting the top 20% income demographic versus everybody else? And then you'll know whether or not you should be doing targeting of the top 20% of income demographic or not, based upon the closing rate of the leads you get from the top 20% income demographic. Or it could be that your closing rates are the same between the high or low income demographic, but the deal size is bigger on top 20% income demographic. Or it could be they go on to purchase more time, so the lifetime value of a customer is more. So there's a lot of things to consider there. The biggest mistake people make is thinking that all the sales and all the leads that they got are the same value. There's so much difference between one lead source or one lead versus another lead, or one lead source versus another lead source in terms of lead quality and ROI from set leads, as well as customer lifetime value. And the custom parameters and the tracking templates are your way of differentiating, so you know where to double, triple, quadruple down, and know where to get the budget from that by taking away from the parts of the account that isn't producing great quality leads or customers. So that's another thing you can do, for example, itself. We did this, by the way, in the drug rehab space. To give you an example there, in the drug rehab space, everybody wants insurance leads. People have good quality insurance because they can get more per filled bed or per bed space that way. And we evaluated what the lead quality was, percentage of people who had good quality insurance versus not, targeting only the top 20% versus not. And overwhelmingly in that market, it doesn't matter what local market we were in, because we've done it multiple times now, targeting people with the top 20% of income demographic has more than 3 times more people with good quality insurance versus not. Which makes sense, right? Because people that have more money generally can afford better insurance, or they're working at jobs that pay better, which those jobs generally have good quality insurance. So, obviously it makes sense, but a lot of people don't think about this. A lot of people don't actually know that they can do this. That's the bigger thing. But even if they could, you can test your heart's content when you have this knowledge and just find out what makes money, what doesn't. And with Google Ads, like I've said many times on this channel, it's not a matter of if you will make money, it's just a matter of when. If you have the right tracking data, even if 3% of your account makes a bunch of money, you'll find out what the 3% is that makes money if you just set up your tracking templates to identify what's working, what's not. And it's not hard to do. So anyway, the last example here is the low price offer. We had a client who is a mortgage broker, and we knew in that market the biggest thing that gets people to want to go with somebody, or basically one of the biggest, if not the biggest, is you get a good mortgage rate. And so what we did to get a whole shitload of leads was just start saying, we'll give you the lowest rate interest rate on your home refinancing mortgage refinance, or we'll give you a free gift card to Outback Steakhouse. So they didn't even have the lowest rate, by the way. But if you do something like that, people assume because you've got the balls to say it, you have the lowest rate. And even if you don't, by the way, not very many people will call you on it. And the few people that call you on it, and the money you've got to pay out for the gift cards is way less than what you're going to pay to get leads who you don't say that. And we were able to find that out very easily by tagging every lead in which we said, well, we'll give you the free gift card, versus the ones that we didn't see mention the free gift card and the guarantee, and just see what the cost per mortgage closed was if we said the guarantee versus not. And of course, they also tracked how many gift cards they had to give out, and that added to the cost of the ad spend for the people in which we said that we would give the guarantee. And the cost per closed mortgage, even after you factored in the cost of the gift cards, blew it out of the water. More than 5x difference in terms of cost per mortgage itself. Why is that though? On Google search, it wasn't so significant. It was more like double It was like twice as profitable if we mentioned the guarantee, because it was still like a really strong offer that really resonates with the market. But the display ads, we could run display ad traffic mentioning this ad, and because like I said before, with you guys running display ads, if you don't come to the table with a good offer that people really give a shit about, you're not going to make money, or it's going to be very hard. But in this case, we knew exactly what people wanted to hear, and when you have that, you can put that in a banner ad and just get it in front of somebody who you know even is in market for a mortgage, and it's exactly what they want to hear. They'll jump on that. And then, you know, we're paying 20, 30 cents a click for a banner ad click, which then converts at 2 or 3%, which is 2 or 3% because there's still a lot of bot traffic on Google Display Network. But now you're talking about leads for super cheap. Talking about leads for, you know, $5 to $10 each, whereas mortgage refinancing leads on Google, you're talking about $50 a lead. That's the difference, and you got to try ballsy stuff sometimes, but one little thing like that you can figure out can totally change your entire business. Knowing that one thing and being able to run display ads in your entire local market for anybody who's been in market for a mortgage scales the crap out of your business with that one little thing. So anyway, that's another example of what you can do. You can change put an offer in an ad, a guarantee like that, or even something else, and just see in terms of, you know, like a freebie or other incentive you have to offer them. When you add that cost into the cost of the ad spend, is the ROI better or worse than if you didn't have that extra offer in with your ads? And does it justify the cost of what your extra or freebie or guarantee is going to be, if you will? So anyway, that's the whole thing in a nutshell. I'll wrap it up with that. I talked for long enough about this. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you like this video, I'd appreciate it if you would give it a thumbs up / like, and consider subscribing, as we have a lot of different videos on this channel about other money-making strategies, which you can make a ton of money with PPC on Google Ads, Facebook Ads, LinkedIn, and so forth if you just watch this channel and learn from somebody who manages several dozen PPC campaigns at any given time, strategizing those accounts and giving you the actual information on what makes money and what doesn't in today's environment. It's the best information you're going to find on YouTube, bar none, on how to make money with your PPC ads. If you have any questions about anything you covered today, or anything I covered today, leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel, usually within a couple days' time. Beyond that, I have a blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog, where I've got other information from myself on how to do PPC campaigns, ones that basically will guarantee your results every time, that beat the competition every time. So if you wanted more information on a more step-by-step basis on how to set up PPC campaigns that'll work every time, you can go there and get other great information from myself. Beyond that, I'll pretty much wrap it up with that. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I hope to very much see you on my next one. See you there.